Greetings, students. Once more, I want to welcome you to my YouTube class. So, in today's class, we're going to be talking about the nervous tissue. The nervous tissue. The nervous tissue. We'll be talking about tissue, and this is the last aspect of the class. I've thought about sorry, I've thought about tissue to be a collection of cells that have a common function, a common origin, and a common structure. I've thought about the four different types of tissues, the four types of tissues. I've thought about three, and the last one is the nervous tissue. So we've thought about the epithelial tissue, we've thought about the connective tissue, we've thought about the muscular tissue, and the last one is the nervous tissue. So, what do we understand as uh, a nervous tissue? A nervous tissue is a tissue that contains cells that sense stimulus and transmit signals from one part of the body to the other. That is the nervous tissue. So they have a group of cells that perform this function or role that I just mentioned now. They sense stimulus and transmit signals from one part of the body to the other. That's the basic function. And of course, this transmission is very important. It helps in communication within the cell. And if there's no communication, then of course, the cells or the entire system will not function properly. That is why adequate communication is important. And some of these signals are sent to the brain for interpretation, some are sent to the spinal cord for interpretation. Okay, now when it comes to the nerve cell, we have three different parts of the nerve cell. Now we have what we call the cell body, we have the dendrites, we have the axon. The cell body is the biosynthetic center or the metabolic center. It is within the cell body that the organelles that are found within the nerve cells are housed or located. The nucleus, the mitochondrion, the uh, Golgi apparatus, the ribosome, you find them in the cell body. So the cell body is a very, very important aspect of the nerve cell. This is where information is processed. This is where protein is produced. This is where energy is generated. And the repair of the cell and the growth of cell, all these are controlled within this biosynthetic center. So it's like the control room of the nerve cell. That is the cell body. And of course, I've mentioned the fact that there's a nucleus there. That means a protein synthesis also occurs within the nerve cell. All right. Having known this now, we will now go into the function of the dendrites. The dendrite extends itself like antenna. It extends itself like antenna. And the function of this dendrite is to receive stimulus and receive stimulus. Once this stimulus is received, then of course it's taken into the cell body where it is now processed. And once the processing is over, then the signal or the information leads through the axon. This is called the axon. The axon. This is the terminal branches of the axon. So the axon is a cell body that conducts action potential away from uh, the nerve cell. It conducts action potential away from the nerve cell. That's the function of the axon. The axon. Okay. So please note that these are the three main parts of the nerve cell. The nerve cell, the axon, the dendrite, and the cell body. All right. Now, having known this, now another group of cells that are closely related or work with the nerve cell is the one called the sensory cells. The sensory cells. The sensory cells. The sensory. So these sensory cells, the function of these sensory cells are to detect external stimulus and of course generate electric signals that are now being transferred to the brain for interpretation. For instance, if you come to the cochlea, the inner part of the ear, you have a sensory cell that is called the hair cell. This is the structure, the hair cell. Now, once sound waves hit this hair cell, then it causes the sericilia, which is the microvilli, to move. The movement of this sericilia kind of produces electrical signal, and this electrical signal is now being transmitted to the brain for interpretation. That's when the person will now understand what he or she has heard. So it goes through these processes. But because most of these things happen within millisecond, you may not understand that this actually happens. So before you hear anything, this process would have occurred before you can actually understand, okay, this thing that this person said is actually this or that. Okay, in the this what I mentioned now, this is the hair cell found in the ear, and I said in the inner part of the ear, the cochlea. So coming to the eyes now, we have within uh, the photosensitive region of the eye, which is called the retina, photosensitive region, which is called the retina, or have the pigment called the rhodopsin. The rhodopsin, the rhodopsin is found within the retina, and this pigment helps in help the rod cell in performing this function. Or let me say that the sensory cells we have within the eye are the rod cell and the cone cell. The rod cell help in seeing dim light. For you to see dim light, what they call low light, dim light, then of course the rod cell must be active, or that's the duty or the role of rod cell. Then the one that is closely related to the rod cell is the cone cell, CONA. So this one is responsible for color vision, for you to see colors and identify them, and for you to also make meaning of bright light that's very, very bright. Then that means that the cone cells must be involved. So both the rod cell and the cone cells are very, very important. So at night, the rod cell is important, dim light. Then during the day, where you are exposed to bright light, or probably you're made to differentiate between colors, then the cell that helps you to do this is the cone cell. So these two are sensory cells that are located within the retina of the eye. All right, this is how far we can go. I think with this, we are saying bye-bye to tissue. I'm saying bye-bye to tissue. Possibly in the next class, we'll talk about other aspects of biology. I think we have not talked about algae, we've not talked about fungi, we have not talked about bryophyta, and so on and so forth. The non-C element and the C element. There are so many things to talk about. So many things to talk about. So as time permits us, we are still going to look at all this. So once more, thank you for being part of this class. Share this video to many students that you know will benefit from it. Thank you. See you in my next class.